Hey guys, Dreams here again. This is going to be what if Yujiro Hanma raised Daniel Park, or just raised Daniel as the thumbnail says. Forgot to put Park for some reason. But basically, we'll go over how Yujiro would get Daniel. Now in this one, we basically go on to see a 6-year-old Daniel Park, who happened to be just, well, still a little chubby, but not as chubby as he is as like 16, 17. As he's just on the playground, Yujiro happened to be walking by with his son Baki. Check this real quick. Yeah, so at this point, Daniel's like, I think I said 6. Baki would be with Yujiro at like 5. But Yujiro would just see Daniel playing around, so he begins getting bullied by this kid named Logan. This kid Logan actually began, well, Jiu-Jitsu recently. So Anakin began flexing on Daniel how fat and weak he was, while Logan was just, looked fat, but he was buff. So with this, Daniel begins getting bullied, and Yujiro will take a close look at Daniel's eyes. As from the view he's looking at Daniel. Daniel's eyes are pretty visible, and he's not wearing glasses just yet. So, with this, well, Yujiro sees that Daniel's able to see Logan's attack and could dodge them if he's fast enough, but he lose. So basically, Daniel's like, he can dodge, it's just he's not in shape to dodge. So with Daniel not being in shape to dodge, well, Yujiro doesn't know that Daniel could get some improvement with that. So, after Yujiro sees how Daniel could have dodged or maneuvered or actually countered the attacks, actually learned how to stand up and try to like jump at Logan using Jiu-Jitsu. This is copying ability activating for the first time, but due to Daniel being so unhealthy and out of shape, Logan thought it was just some very bad copy, but Yujiro could tell it was a perfect copy, like mastered copy immediately. Like Daniel could start out a white belt and immediately shoot up to like a green belt with how perfectly he copied that. So, yeah. So with this, well, Yujiro just smirked and then, well, he eventually came back to Korea around a month later when Baki was home. So eventually the time that like Yujiro came back to Korea, he saw Daniel, and this one Daniel would have a different mother. With this, well, Yujiro would actually abduct Daniel. And this when the mother didn't really care too much to look for Daniel. In reality, it was Daniel's, well, aunt, not mother. His actual mother had been sick and was in a hospital for most of his life, and he never knew, even though his actual mother wanted him to be told about that. So all he knew is that he lived with his aunt and not his mother, and then the aunt never bothered to look for him. So yeah. So basically, with this, Daniel had actually been abducted, but no one bothered to look for him, and he didn't know what was happening due to him being so young. He didn't even learn stranger danger just yet. So Daniel is basically abducted by Yujiro. He's trained by Yujiro in Japan for 10 years straight. Yujiro did see that Daniel at this age already had greater potential than his own sons. But he may not have been in shape, but his potential was unlimited. That Daniel was trained by Yujiro constantly 24/7, dieted if he couldn't lose weight. And, well, Yujiro's diet made him lose weight. All of it. Then Daniel had to basically just eat anything that was healthy. Anything that Yujiro ate, Daniel ate smaller portions of. Or he ate the leftovers of the massive meals Yujiro would eat. Pause. With how big Yujiro is, he'd probably eat roughly like 4,000 calories in a day. Well, Daniel being 6 would probably have to eat at the most, I'd say possibly like 1,500. But due to how much Yujiro eats and Daniel being basically eating leftovers, and Yujiro probably eating way more than he should because he's Yujiro Hanma and he eats like a monster, he probably eats a little over 10,000, and Daniel himself would eat around 4,000 just with what Yujiro ate. Then he'd work most of that off with how much Yujiro makes him work out. And we notice when Daniel's roughly around 15. With Daniel being 15, well, Yujiro decided to have Daniel be thrown into the world of the Yakuza, because they're still in Japan, and Daniel just basically beats down everyone. And then he'll beat down basically the Yakuza. Well, Yujiro isn't regarded as the strongest creature. He's regarded as like the strongest man in the world. That's really just not creature, because it's not the Baki universe. I'll include like a few random characters from Baki just to test out Daniel, as he's known as like Yujiro's adopted son. I don't think he's as strong as any of his actual kids, even though he is. Like, he's stronger than most of his kids. Well, he's stronger than Baki, but not Jack. He's a year older than Jack. Not Jack. He's a year older than Baki, but yeah. Actually, let me check what year's Baki. Alright, so the aging for Hanma is weird between the animes. So basically, I'm pretty sure that Yujiro had done something to Jack's mother in like a war, and I'd assume it's like Vietnam with how old Yujiro is. So Jack should be like in his 40s or 50s by the time that like Baki, if it's going on like the 2010, 2020s, he should be like in his 40s or 50s, which could mean that Baki is roughly like was born in like the 70s maybe. Well, Yujiro may have his kids full. I could probably just advance their ages to the point where they may be correct and they're already full adults. But this one, they're supposed to be like just demons. Like Baki had already surpassed Yujiro, but Yujiro was a better teacher, so Baki could never have raised Daniel to be as good as him. So yeah. So yeah. So basically, all of Yujiro's kids are grown up, but Yujiro just still trains his kids. He trains Daniel. Daniel's 15, gets involved with Yakuza, means just dropping Yakuza left and right. They came across one by the name of Warioni who used judo specifically. But Daniel didn't care. He wasn't as strong as him. Like, Wardai wasn't as strong as him. Which would be, Wardai would be Xiangjun if you guys have read How to Fight or Viral Hit. It goes by both names. Viral Hit is on Webtoon, and then just search up How to Fight Manhwa if you want to read more chapters. But I recommend Webtoon to the fact that you support the creators more on there. So yeah. So, so basically, Daniel will just beat up Warioni or Xiangjun, and well, Daniel basically learned most martial arts native to Japan. Because all Yujiro had Daniel do was train. He got basic education, sure, but it was just from private tutors who were also martial artists. So yeah, Daniel, by the time he's 15, was already knew all forms of karate, knew Brazilian Japanese jiu-jitsu, knew judo, knew boxing, every single form of boxing. He's like a boxing slugger, not boxing puncher, a slugger, an in-fighter, and an out-fighter. So, yeah. And then Daniel also knew Kung Fu and Taekwondo. So, yeah. Plus, also sumo wrestling, Korean wrestling, and Greco-Roman wrestling. A lot of things. But, yeah. But after he beat Warioni, he eventually moved on to a biker by the name of Ryuhei. If you guys can recognize the name Ryuhei, at least the backstory, because you don't read on Webtoon, Ryuhei is basically from, he's from the most recent arc being the second affiliate, and it's Nomen. If you guys recall, it's Nomen. And Nomen's name is Ryuhei, forgot his last name, or K something Ryuhei. So, yeah, you can figure out his name. Yeah, his name is Kuroda Ryuhei. But Nomen, so he's Neko's bodyguard. Neko's the leader, or not the leader, but she is the second affiliate. But Ryuhei basically took down a whole Yakuza group by himself. Gun kind of mentioned that previously, but yeah. But Daniel, when he's just taking down Yakuza, really strong people all throughout Japan, well, Ryuhei was one of them, and he beat down Ryuhei with really no effort. Ryuhei tried to go all out against Daniel. Daniel, not even using half his power, almost killed him. So, yeah. Daniel basically thought him as a very disappointing fighter. Now, eventually, by the time that Daniel was 16, he would head back to Korea. The fact that, using canonical timelines, and then assuming that Yujiro could be normal in lifespan, Yujiro had died or at least just fell sick. And Daniel basically just left after Baki said he'll take care of Yujiro. Daniel should head back to Korea. So, yeah. So Daniel goes back in Korea and just vibes there. And eventually, by the time he's 17, well, first off, he never got his whole thing with Logan Lee. Well, he did when he was like 6 years old, but Logan didn't recognize Daniel. But Daniel basically enrolls in school as Daniel Hanma, not Daniel Park. This way, Daniel's real mother is healed. But later on, she would recognize Daniel, but not quite yet. Because Daniel gets a part-time job in a small apartment. The small apartment, but the small house is given credit due to Baki giving Daniel money. Then Daniel just bought that small place. Same place in Canada, and he just works out there. So yeah, Daniel at this point would know. I'm pretty sure I said all of it, but yeah. So Daniel basically would enroll in J-High as, well, Daniel Hanma, not Daniel Park. And it's pretty just weird for him because he's covered in scars. And Daniel basically just, like, in school wears like the basic outfit, but the sleeves are rolled up. But on his face, he has, like, the scar that Vasco has, like that scar on his face, the two scars. He has like those same scars, it's just they're much larger. And those are from Yujiro. So, yeah. But Daniel just to lowball himself, just to, like, the basics that he learned at a young age: karate, boxing, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and street fighting. Those are just the very few martial arts that he tries to use, like just to limit himself. Those are his limits, are just that. Well, those are like his 25% limits. So yeah. To be honest, Daniel with one arm and not even using a stance is better at boxing than Zach. And that's just him just lowballing himself to like 10% of his power. Just better than Zach. Now, Dooley just tried to invite Daniel to like smoke with him, and Daniel would only have one body in this one. But yeah, because there's no need to have two overpowered Daniels. So yeah. But as Dooley tried to invite Daniel down to smoke, Daniel basically just slapped Dooley, not his full force, but just slapped him hard enough to knock him out and hospitalize him. And Daniel basically said that if Dooley wants to be a delinquent and be a strong delinquent, smoking should end. But Zach tried to attack Daniel, but when he tried to, well, Daniel basically dodged his first punch and then found an opening in Zach's style and just uppercutted him right in that opening and knocked him out. Zach hit the ground with a giant bruise on his chin and blood coming from his mouth. Zach woke up like a day later, just confused, and Mira basically says, "Well, then we picked a fight with a new kid and he knocked you out." So yeah. And that was just me thought that was like one shot that he got hit with. He knows there's only one shot. But the next day, Zach tries to pick an official fight with Daniel. But Daniel, basically, well, with just a very minimal training, he's very, very athletic and, well, very acrobatic. And, well, gymnastics was a regular training routine for him. Like, you know that one guy in the Ansan arc? That one gymnast kid that Zach beat up? Well, a stronger Zach? Well, this Daniel is more acrobatic than him and more flexible in everything. But Daniel basically uses his own gymnastics and just beats the life out of Zach with really no effort. Isn't Daniel actually looked at Zach, who's still barely conscious? Daniel then said, "Who's the strongest in the school?" And Zach didn't say he was the weakest, but he said there's kids that are really strong, and he mentions Vin Jin, Vasco, the whole Burnt Knuckle crew's really strong. And Zach just said that to get Daniel off of him. And Daniel stood up saying, "Alright then, he'll be off then." Looked at the class and then walked into Vin Jin's class. Then, as soon as Vin Jin stood up, and they only instantly analyze his body than what it could be like under the hoodie. You analyze Mira Kim, she seemed very strong, despite her frame. Somebody else said, "Judo and Korean wrestling, right?" And immediately Vin says, "Huh? What about that?" And he says, "No, I'm guessing your style." Vin says, "Yeah, Judo and Korean wrestling, and a bit of Kudo." But with that, you ran at Daniel. They don't immediately grab Vin grab Vin's glasses. And as soon as Vin realized his glasses were gone, he just basically bitch slapped her out the window. And luckily, well, he didn't happen to be in his classroom. He happened to just be in a random classroom hanging out with one of his friends. And he bitch slapped right at the window. As Vin hit the ground unconscious, he was just there. Mary Kim was just shocked. As Daniel says, his judo style is pretty flawed. He must be inexperienced or didn't train for a while. Well, he walks away, throwing his glasses to Mary Kim. Next up is Vasco and Jace. Now it came down to Vasco and Jace, and he fought them both. So Vasco told Vasco that he's just going out to find the strongest and beat them up. Vasco then attacked Daniel, thinking he was a bad guy. But the moment Vasco punched Daniel, he immediately regretted it. Vasco's body began shaking, and Jace saw this. And the thing that made Jace too nervous to actually attack Daniel with Vasco is Vasco then said, "Stone wall." Vasco then slammed in the ground by Daniel with one, not slam, but just punched in the ground full force by Daniel. And Vasco's just on the ground with his face, long story short, Vasco has a giant scar across his face now from Daniel. Daniel made one of the scars just the strength of his fist. Then Daniel applauds Vasco, saying, "Well, long story short, you're the strongest here now. I had used 25% to beat you. Good job." He steps over Vasco, then we went on to Jace, and then we went on to the Burnt Knuckle crew. When Vasco wakes up, the whole place where the Burnt Knuckles hang out is covered in blood and just smells like sweat. He sees Daniel walk out with the jacket off, and covered in blood. Now that Daniel's officially top dog of the school, and Eli Jeng even knows if he got involved to fight, he probably could not have won. He took out the whole Burnt Knuckle crew and didn't come out with a single scratch on him. So there's no way he could have won. But it didn't basically sits alone. So, yeah. So as he usually sits alone, actually he says something to Jay because him and Jay are both pretty quiet guys. But him and Jay also do begin to talk, or he begins to talk while Jay just responds in his own way, and Daniel was able to understand him. Daniel's part-time job does that Jiho was forced to steal, but Daniel made sure that he didn't steal but just paid for it, pitying Jiho. So Daniel, at pity, let he let Chiho off the hook. But yeah. And Daniel doesn't go to a bar, but Daniel, in place of going to a bar, actually brings Zach to a gym. Like, he brings like Zach, Vin, and Vasco and Jace to a gym. They question what he wants here, and they say like they ask if he wants a formal match. But that's when he says no, he's going to train them all. He said that first, then they're going to start boxing. Confused them, he just pointed at Zach, saying Zach is a very traditional boxer, so Zach probably will not move on, but well, Zach just has to stick to boxing. Maybe even dirty boxing. But that he brings him into the gym by basically just snapping the lock clean off. Then as he goes inside, he teaches them basically just like the basics of boxing and then how he uses every single form of it. And he's going to mold them into monsters. Vin doesn't really have a choice, he's terrified of Daniel. So, yeah. Like, getting bitches out of a window will basically terrify you, if anyone, I guarantee it. But, yeah. Vasco should be turning, I guess, and his goal is to basically catch up to Daniel or beat him. In reality, he cannot. Daniel is at least probably small mountain level. Like, Yujiro strong to stop an earthquake, and the earthquake was estimated to be about mountain level. Daniel's probably maybe a giant hill or small mountain level. So, yeah. But, yeah, basically, Daniel does get expensive clothes from Jay for his birthday. And then Daniel ended up meeting his mother. She recognized Daniel immediately. This was his actual mother, not his aunt, which she told him about. He immediately just started a relationship with her. He gets $5, and Vasco doesn't know that Daniel wouldn't extort an innocent woman, and he assumes that was his mother. So, yeah. Now that Daniel does perform like with the whole show with Duke. But then, well, Daniel kind of had an idea to perform. They're going to do a martial arts exhibition. But then make it very flashy, with fire and stuff like that. It took a bit of rehearsing, but they put it in between him and Duke's performance and stuff. But Daniel basically being a monster in every single right, and also having to learn how to dance and everything, this Yujiro like, no, gymnastics, now boxing, now ballet. Then like just basically random things, just throw Daniel, like, just to make Daniel's life living hell. People also do something that Yujiro may be really smart, as he would value his brain strength as much as his body strength, which if he does, Yujiro probably is the smartest man on Earth, which I don't doubt, honestly. Well, Yujiro basically made sure that Daniel was really smart. Like in between like his 10,000 push-ups, read 10 books. So yeah, well, Daniel's already decently intelligent, it raised to the top of the class, but yeah. So Daniel would basically just well, first he made sure that everyone trains their brains just as much. Just lead to Vasco, something pretty goofy, but also decently intelligent when it came to like books, but still kind of funny, not awkwardly funny socially. But for the martial arts exhibition, well, Daniel learned pretty fast and learned how to sing. Also made sure that everyone got their martial arts and gymnastics down. And Zach made sure to get gymnastics down because, well, with gymnastics, he had to learn to rely on his whole body. So that actually made Zach a southpaw as well. And Zach seemed to be pretty good with it. Zach became an ambidextrous fighter. We also started to pick up wrestling from Daniel as well, as Vasco stuck to wrestling and boxing as well. And Vin basically learned everything that involved hands. So, yeah. Like, if Daniel if you give Daniel like a list of 500 martial arts, he'll know how to use at least 300 of them. Because his copying ability came into work really fast with different martial artists, or different just people, and that was really good for him. So, yeah. Sorry to stand up for a second, my legs hurt. So, yeah. The martial arts exhibition actually placed number 3. Number 1 was the rap. Daniel's appearance, he only just has like a black suit, like a white button-up shirt, the blue suit jacket. He has his sleeve rolled up on both, and the scars are just showing. He has the same face and everything, just he's a lot more bulky. Listen, height, he's about the same height as Yujiro, about like 6'3", 6'4". He's a pretty big guy too. But he also has like a pretty lean physique as well, so just makes you really good. After the martial arts exhibition, he also gets a lot of modeling offers because of his body. Everyone got a lot of them. So yeah. Then when it came to people buying him, well, he was still bought by Crystal, but anyone wants to fight Gun. You guys maybe think that I may lowball Daniel like I usually do, but no. This fight was Gun losing. Gun lost to Daniel. With how many martial arts that Daniel copies from Yujiro, and then how much when she trained, Gun cannot beat Daniel. Like, oh yeah, Gun can use Kyokushin karate. Cool. Daniel mastered it. Doesn't matter. Gun doesn't use capoeira. Daniel mastered it. Doesn't matter. So yeah, Daniel beat Gun. This fight did deem Gun really powerful. And Gun just thinks he was beaten this badly. Then he remembers the description of the guy who beat Ryuhei. He realizes that he ran into that guy in Korea, and that this was a Korean, not a Japanese guy. So Gun wasn't knocked out, but just stood up, just covered in blood and bruises. It then just told Crystal he probably can't drive. So yeah, she drove him somewhere. Choice was questioning why Gun wasn't driving her, but she's opened the door for Gun, and Gun stumbled out, covered in blood and bruises. He questions this. That's when Gun says he ran into a legend in Japan. A legend that was in Japan. He describes Daniel and how he fought, and Chairman Choi's just amazed. He wonders who raised a beast like that. So when Gun just says, and the funny thing is, I don't even think he used 50% of his power. He's gonna be going easy on me. I was sweating my ass off. He wasn't even panting. And Chairman Choi was just in shock. So, yeah. And now Duke did begin streaming. But, like, this arc is pretty normal till Daniel would see a stalker. But with the stalker for Zoe, he almost killed the guy. So, yeah. Now Namsu's kind of out of money. Zack goes to intervene, but no one goes with him. Zack just beats down the guys pretty easily. So, yeah. The guy's like, oh, my Shudo. Zack's like, cool, wrestling. And then just countered it and beat him. So, yeah. Well, Zack was just a monster in his own right, and the guys had no way to beat him. Then they all go on that field trip. But Daniel made sure to actually will tell them, like, if you have anyone that's, like, just make sure everyone's protected. So Daniel, the person that he would want to teach or protect is probably just Zoe. Some people that are important to him are, like, just Duke and Jiho. But Duke and Jiho wouldn't be a target for anyone, really, besides, like, Dooley, and Dooley wouldn't mess with Jiho. And then Vin doesn't mess with Duke anymore, so, yeah. So Vin doesn't mess with Duke. Dooley is too scared to go near Jiho. So, yeah. So, the only person left is Zoe, and Zoe is top basic self-defense. And then Zack basically taught Mira a few boxing techniques, so, yeah. Well, Creepy can't counter to, like, just grab them. Zoe basically just, like, was able to actually put his leg in a hold. It wasn't a good hold, but still. Zoe basically just jump and basically just elbow drop him right in the face, and then just pound his face over and over and over again. So, yeah. But Daniel does go to visit his mother, runs into Logan, and Logan basically just bumps into Daniel. But Logan immediately recognized Daniel, but was shocked at how big he was. And this one Logan called him Pikachu. Over Daniel basically just like, if you know the most recent arc of the second affiliate, I mean, you know the first game, Hyoko? Well, not first game, the first game that's basically just, I guess the main player is Hyoko, the guy who slaps people, like slaps the life out of them. Daniel basically just gave Logan a Hyoko slap, but Logan didn't die. He was just on the ground, just unconscious and bleeding everywhere. He wasn't dead, but still, it's amazing he's not dead. But Daniel walked away, and Logan just realized that he messed with the wrong guy, as he's basically just dying in the middle of the street, but someone calls an ambulance for him. So yeah. Also, Daniel began inviting Jay to train with him. But Daniel also made everyone just keep training. At this point, Vasco was able to pick up Muay Thai, and actually found like a strong suit in that. Daniel met a certain man when he traveled the world with old man Yujiro. He met Samdak. Samdak taught Daniel a bit of Muay Thai, or copied it from him. But they don't have to use different martial arts, and got his ass beat by Samdak, but still copied his Muay Thai, and knew a lot of his deadly techniques. Samdak also fought Yujiro, so, yeah. And then as we've seen, Daniel could possibly copy things just from observing, not experiencing. So Daniel basically been using, like, showing Vasco the deadly techniques, but telling him don't use these. At least not on anyone that they'll fight recently. Now, Daniel still does eat a dog, but make sure to train the dog, like, make the dog exercise. Now with Jay, well, first off, he handed the dogs to his friend group like they were toys. Like, Vasco, you get a dog. Zack, you get a dog. Ben, you get a dog. Jay, you get a dog. They'll get dogs. Then Vasco Jay and Vasco can like co-parent, not Jay. Jason and Vasco co-parent their dog, or co-parent Vasco's dog, because Vasco doesn't know how to raise a dog. So, yeah. Vasco's just happy to have a dog. Eventually, we do go on to that one guy who tried to, like, fake not fake, but he tried to be like, I guess, Facebook famous, like the ripoff version of Facebook. But on Facebook, they tried to basically like call out this one delinquent, Dooley and him did. But well, Zach still considered Dooley like a friend, so did like have Dooley come to the gym occasionally. But Dooley was actually ready to fight, and he didn't win the fight, but still he beat up like one of the guy's right hand men. But then when they're both like was abducted, well, Daniel basically went there himself, as Dooley's like kind of like just works out with him. The question who Daniel is, and that's when Daniel says, and then nothing. Come on, Dooley. Come on, random guy. And he drags him out. The Dungeon hits Daniel back of the head with a baseball bat, and it lands, but the bat shatters. And through being recorded on Facebook, everyone's like, "Oh, he should be dead or unconscious." Daniel just basically turned around and threw the guy out of a 2-story window. And everyone's jaw dropped that Daniel might have just killed a man on my video. But Daniel doesn't get charges or anything for it because the guy attacked him first. So yeah, and it was also a live abduction. Now, eventually Daniel's offered like to be a model, and it was like expensive guy, like, hey, your physique's good. If you scars, people think those are badass. Like, nope, you're a dick. No, I'm good. And well, Daniel also has a bit of money, but he just still lives in like a very rundown house. But that guy did make fun of Daniel's mother still. So yeah. But still, he chose the same guy to model for, and yeah. Now, Daniel never became an escort, because when his mother wanted a rice cooker, he bought it for her immediately and just gave it to her. So, yeah. So with this, Daniel would basically just, well, he became a model. He never became that non-sexual escort. Vasco's birthday party happened, but it was based on the roof of the gym. But then they went inside with Daniel saying he's cold as all hell. So yeah. But Crystal doesn't hate Daniel because she knows he doesn't care about anything besides just training. Like, he may look good, but he wants to train more. So yeah. But Daniel's like just natural physique possibility just doesn't let him get as bulky as Yujiro. He gets a decent amount of bulky, just not as bulky. So yeah. Now, Gio does get scammed out of money, but when Vasco goes to like basically help him, well, Vasco fights Jake Kim. Jake Kim's just by the time the fight ended, he's covered in bruises and blood. He's just amazed that Vasco was this strong and not even a crew head. And Jake has one of his arms broken. He can barely see out of one eye, and he's limping. Then Mr. Jerry and everyone else arrives and throws a gun. And questions who did this to Jerry. Not Jerry, to Jake. And then Jake says he fought some random guy by the name Tabasco or something. But then this one, the gun's like, I recognize his name. It's Vasco. Gun reveals he got his ass kicked by some random guy named Daniel. And, yeah. And he says that Daniel has been training this one guy named Tabasco, but that's just a few other guys he trains. Pause. Sure where I was, but Gunn basically told Jake that Daniel trained a few people, one of them being Vasco. And that Gunn was also beaten by Daniel, so yeah. So Jake doesn't really get a punishment with his teeth being knocked out or pulled out, but Gunn thought having both his arms broken and one leg almost being broken was punishment enough. Because when both arms are broken, they'd be healed they'd take a long time to heal. But eventually get Sports Day, then Daniel dominates the whole thing. Obviously, he wins Sports Day. They never bullied Duke because he's friends with Daniel. So, yeah. Well, Duke's friends with Daniel. Vin is just his student. But, yeah. Actually, Daniel doesn't know at PTJ, just like a bigger, just singing mainly. But also to be, have a potential modeling career. Well, side modeling careers besides his main one. So, yeah. Now, his voice was already decent because, well, Yujiro trained him constantly with anything, so yeah. But Daniel's in Class C, doesn't really care. But don't let that Class A guy try to haze or mess with Daniel, because he's cleaning up their food because he killed them just basically wasteful animals. When one tries to stop the food out of Daniel's hand, don't they try to stop it down? Daniel's grip was just so strong that the plates didn't even budge. Then Daniel opened his mouth, smiling. Not opened his mouth, but just smiled. Then says that if they try to do it again, he'll kill them. They backed off a bit, and he just will put all their food on their plates and ate it all. He needs to eat a lot more than a regular person does. So, yeah. Now, eventually, Daniel is ridiculed by Oliver and Laszlo. He doesn't really care. Oliver and Laszlo the Class C teachers. But eventually, Daniel is there with Vasco just not Vasco actually. We're going to like just Duke about to be bullied by like Audrey's bodyguard, but Daniel's there. So when the guy tries to like bully Duke, Daniel basically was like slapped him so hard the guy's head was cracked open, and he told Duke not to look at all. So he just basically cracked the guy's head open and then left with Duke. And then there's security cameras, and then pointed that out when they tried to say that Daniel did it with no warning. So he pulled the security cameras, and then yeah. Daniel basically cleared all of it, and Ari's bodyguard's in a coma now. Well, not a coma, he's a vegetable, but yeah. So, yeah. So Vasco never beat up Audrey's bodyguard. But when Audrey just was almost forced to have a nude shoot, it does lead on to Daniel arriving. But Daniel says looks at all the numbers and then says he's looking forward for a good fight. So he dashes in this fight, but these numbers just beats them all down with single handedly, and just is very just upset at how weak they are. So yeah, we go on to Gun, she's been training with Goo 24/7, and Gun got a bit stronger, but not as strong. That's not as strong as Daniel just yet. You had to just to see how much martial arts that Daniel was using. That was just basically using the basic styles. The moment you realized that everyone was just weak. Daniel never got a stalker because, well, if he did, he would have killed her, and I'm saving this woman's life. So Daniel is not going to kill some random woman. Now Logan transfers to J High, then tries to beat up everyone. First he tried to beat up Vin. Vin picked him up and suplexed him full force and almost cracked open his head, almost like Daniel did. But Logan just wobbled away, holding his head, not wanting to do that again. Then he tried to fight Vasco. He just got Muay Thai just, laid out all over him. And when he's done, he tried to fight Zach, and Zach just one-shot him. So, yeah. So, yeah, eventually he just see Daniel was there, and then, Vin, Vasco, and Zach bowed. Vin, Vasco, and Zach bowed to him. And, now Logan realizes that they probably his students or they're his underlings. And he doesn't remember Daniel, exactly. Eventually there's a field trip, and the country guys to try to pick a fight with them. But then Vasco threw up on this guy, and the guy tried to say $10,000. So Daniel smirked at him, over him, and then said, $1. And the guy just pissed himself and said, $1, $1 is good. And, yeah. So, yeah, $1 was needed, not 10,000. So, yeah. Now this, Daniel does meet Johan, but Johan I'm on 3 miles. How many have you ran so far with your dog? Daniel had Inu the baby carrier thing. And they were like, oh, me and Inu ran a good 15 so far. And Johan took a look at Daniel's body, seeing it covered in scars, as he's wearing shorts, a tank top, with the running shoes. I'm like, oh, can you run extra through with me if you ran 15? Like, oh yeah, easily. And he beat Johan in 3 miles just with really no effort. So yeah. And Inu was with Daniel for 24/7. And then when Eden was kidnapped, Daniel was basically just a wild animal when it came to just random things. With tracking, he's like a wild animal, and he intends fighting intent or killing intent, or he's just emotion. And he also picked up Eden's scent, so he found Eden pretty easily. And Moylan tried to say, "No, she's my dog now. You abandoned her." Nobody's just under her head into a brick wall, face first, and just let her bleed there. So he picked up Eden, gave her to Johan, and he walked away. And Johan felt like he was looking at a monster with how many scars Daniel had, but also how buff Daniel's body was. But before Daniel was out of earshot, Johan actually asked to fight Daniel. No, smiling, saying, "Sure, why not?" And with that, Daniel fights Johan in the middle of the alley, and Johan wakes up hours later with with Jin Jiang and his whole crew standing over him. Jin questions who did this, and Jin says, "Daniel Park." Jin's eyes immediately widen, and Jin says, "This is the same guy who beat Gun." They'll end up sighing, realizing that if he kept up with what Gun was doing, he could have avoided the fight with Daniel. But now he knows that he probably can't beat Gun. Still. So yeah. Eventually, Daniel does spend Thanksgiving with his cousins, as they haven't seen Daniel since he was 6. When they realize how buff he is, they can tell it's Daniel. It's just they're amazed at how big he is. They question what happened to Daniel. They're like, oh yeah, some guy saw I was being treated well, so he adopted me. Then I was raised across different countries. So yeah, it was a pretty good life. But there's how much Daniel eats, and there's they can't feed him fully. He's like, no worries, I'll send a message. They send a message to Baki or Yujiro or Jack, and they send him just a shit ton of money. And then he basically just buys everyone a whole feast, not just a few tiny dishes. But when Daniel's cousin was like hanging out, when one cousin was like basically bits up as delinquent, Daniel stood over his cousin, over the guy. The guy immediately just gave Daniel's cousin his money, saying, no worries. Just like shaking. And the cousin just thanked Daniel. So yeah. But Daniel came back not long after, and the guy then says, what do you want? Here to extort us even more? And I was like, yeah, we need some more money. Like, all the guys just basically gave their clothing and everything, and then Daniel just pawned it for money. Yeah, he bought his cousins some stuff, but also just bought himself a few things. That Daniel actually not Daniel, I mean, Vasco met Samdak, and then just trained with him, as Daniel was like, oh yeah, but Samdak, go ahead. But Samdak also wanted to rematch with Daniel, because he'd been, like, when Daniel lost to Samdak in Thailand, or Taiwan, whatever, where Samdak is from, Thailand or Taiwan? Fuck. Pretty sure it was Taiwan. Well, basically, yep, so once Daniel lost to Samdak, it was Yujiro who beat him, and Yujiro was still an old man at this point. So basically, Yujiro had beat Samdak, then Samdak wanted to see how strong Daniel was now, and Daniel beat Samdak. So yeah, but Samdak was still better at Muay Thai. Daniel just copied him. He didn't know all this deadly techniques, only knew like 3 of them. So yeah. When Gio escaped out of bank account, that arc remains pretty similar. It's just that Daniel doesn't push out a window. When Gio does try to push them, he doesn't even budge. When instead just throws James out a window. Not throws him, but just throws James into a wall. But then James gets back up, only for Gio to push him out the window, and Gio gets arrested for that. So yeah. So yeah. So we can go on to like Goddard picking a fight with Jay High, which is the biggest mistake so far. At this point, Vin had learned a lot of things. Even Logan began training with them in place of Vasco. Like at this point, Vin had learned jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, judo, kudo, wrestling, and already had Korean wrestling under his belt too. But then Daniel also basically made him just tug of war with Daniel daily. And if Daniel felt like he was good, Daniel felt like he was doing good enough, he let go of the rope. And Vin at this point is able to lift like thousands of pounds, like at the most like 1,200, and that's just like his max weight. But we want to see Vin, who basically just was Ivan Park, and Vin happened to be like in an arcade working out. Probably not an arcade working out. I don't think he'd be in an arcade at all. Actually, I can see him in the force uprooting trees, like he was doing before the second affiliate arc began. And Ivan was looking around the destroyed forest, just then sees a tree being lifted in the air, then thrown around. Then the Vin seeing who did it, and then sees that Vin was like in a judo position. Then just got in a wrestling position, just basically suplexed the tree. Ivan said he's here to fight Vin, and Vin said, "Sure, come at me." But Ivan rushed at Vin, only for Vin to basically just like pummel him with like one shot, just like everyone heard a loud boom and looks over to like Ivan, like as smoke clears, they look over at Ivan, seeing his face just shoved into the ground with Vin's hand on top of him. And Vin said, "Oh, I would have held back if I knew you were this weak." Then Vin just threw him over to his guys, telling him to leave. Then it's Logan versus Hope Park, and Logan began using a bit of wrestling, but also using jiu-jitsu and a bit of judo. But when Hope Park tried to basically just jump on Logan or get him, Logan just mixed in Japanese and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and just choked out the guy with no effort, choked out Hope. Then Goddard to attack Vasco does his job, only for Vasco to beat them all down, even Johan's beaten down. So, yeah. Vasco then says, what did the other guy say? Oh yeah, I'm a level of crew head. You had no chance. As he just threw Johan to the side. And he went back to work. So, yeah. So, yeah. But, Zach fights another boxer by the name of Scott Kwan. Zach is with his original boxing teacher, who did a good job either way, so he's trained with him more than Daniel, but still trains with Daniel occasionally. And Scott just realized that Daniel's that Zach's basically a boxer of every single type. Then Scott's like, oh yeah, you're an infighter, I'm an outfighter. And so that's like, okay, I'll be an outfighter too. And then fought Scott like that. So yeah, but Zack's just gonna walk through questioning what monster trained Zack to be like this. So yeah. Then Eli eventually started training a bit more because of he trained to he trained to huh. So he trained a bit more, but trained a bit as I guess he didn't train at all, but he trained a bit. He'll beat up the same guys as in canon, just a lot easier. Then Gun arrived. Joe wants to fight Gun, but even Gun go like one more with like one broken arm still. Beat John with really no effort. So, um, with this, basically, Daniel would eventually like fight Gun again. Gun would almost test his power against Daniel, knowing he'd still lose, but wants to test a new power. And then Dustin down with chuckles saying, "Oh, you improved. Not strong enough though," and just basically kicks the absolute shit out of Gun. And Goose just watching this whole Goose at his hill fight. He pulls out a sword to attack Daniel, just dashing at him. But suddenly, Goose realizes his sword was stopped by something, and everyone is just amazed. And everyone knows that Daniel caught Goo's sword with two fingers, and then snaps it in half. Goo keeps trying to use his sword at full speed, but Daniel just like flicks it and whittles it down to the point where it's nothing but the hilt. Then Goo tries to dash at Daniel still, and then just basically just curb stomped into the ground. So yeah. Now, Gunn did notice that Daniel probably wouldn't be his successor, but they actually call out Vasco, telling Vasco that he'd be a good successor. So yeah. Now with this, Daniel's still in school. Logan does try to pick fight with Daniel after he trained a bit like over the break. And then Daniel basically pummeled him into the ground like full force with really no effort. So yeah. He's using going all out to show Logan how much like of a difference there still is. Because he's pissed off by Logan 24/7. By the time Logan like just wakes up, he's been in a coma for like a month just because what Daniel did to him. So yeah. So still just shocking how much force that Daniel used on Logan. And Zoe does have like a crush on Daniel. So yeah, but so does Crystal as well. So yeah. So Zoe and Crystal will see each other as like competitors for Daniel's love. But then so does Joy, as she's also likes Daniel. But then Jin basically orchestrates events like, oh, Daniel versus Zack, Logan versus Jay, Vasco versus Vin. Then Eli plus Hostile B later on to defeat Hostile A. But basically yeah, really no one fights each other. Like Jerry Quan would walk up the stairs just see Daniel versus Zack, hoping to see it that they tie each other up, but they're literally just sitting there eating. Then Jerry Quan arrived, and then Zack fights him and beats him into the ground with really no effort. Then Jerry looks up at Daniel and realizes that's the guy that beat Gun. And he's like looks at the appearance and realizes this guy that beat Gun, and this guy must be a student Zack, because he got to know of all the students that he had. Even like Jay was a recent student of Daniel. So yeah. But then Vasco versus Jin did happen, but it was like not Vin, not Jimmy. It was Vasco versus Vin, not Jin. So Vasco basically was sparring with Vin, and Vin took off his glasses too. And everyone has seen, like everyone that trains with Daniel has seen Vin without his glasses on. But in this fight, basically Vasco had won, but still it was a really hard fight for him. So yeah. And then with Sandak's training that he has now, he could beat Jake Kim, the one that he fought before Juvie. So yeah. But basically, when all that war between the hostiles, well, yeah. By the way, I did notice I skipped the runaway fam arc. The arc isn't really too important. It remains pretty similar as in canon. Pretty much the exact same. Not that much of a difference. But as all that war breaks out with Hostile, basically everyone is just like body slamming people left and right with no effort. Like that war is like one-sided, like it's on the side of J High. So yeah. Well, but the Runaway Fam arc. The only thing that's different is when Daniel fights Chuck and Justin, he one shots them both of them when they attack him, just just like one kick. That's all it took. But yeah, pause. After this, we go into Daniel, who has to, I guess, infiltrate. What was it? Oh yeah, he has to infiltrate the fourth affiliate. He still meets Chairman Hong. Chairman Hong's like, oh yeah, you have to do like this whole thing. So, you know, that's after this. It's after that. Never mind. But Daniel does it to infiltrate the fourth affiliate, and when he infiltrates it, well, first off, he does become a streamer. But he basically was like famous for like his martial arts exhibition, just being showing like martial arts on video. That's why he makes money now instead of just being a model. He'll occasionally model, but not for money. He does get money off of it, but he doesn't do it for that. So as Daniel basically ends up being a streamer, he's limited to like the one MC or one NC, whatever it was, or one MCN. I'm pretty sure one MCN. He's there, he's put in a room, and no one really expects him to be strong. They haven't heard about Daniel beating Gun. There's one people that's heard about it have been Eugene. Eugene's the head of the workers, if you guys didn't know that, but yeah. Like, only people that are like that are crew heads have heard about Daniel beating Gun. Like, Samuel heard that Gun lost to someone, he doesn't know who, but he lost. And that Gun also, basically has two more people that he wants to be his successors. But Daniel basically like just woke up one day because he was drugged. Not one day, but like that night he woke up and he was drugged. He looked at his camera and says, I'm streaming. What language is this again? Oh yeah. Well, I've been perfectly speaking it, and so visual streams cut in and some like mercenaries walk in. Only for them to basically just beat the living shit out of them all with no effort. That it calls on like the two guys that work with White Tiger Job Center. When those two walk in, they're beaten down too. And eventually it leads on to like an hour later where the whole hallway is like, the whole floor is filled with just bodies of mercenaries. Andrew Kim is being held in the hand of Daniel, and he's barely able to breathe. But Daniel is letting him live because he respects his strength, and so he put him down. With that, he's met by Samuel, and Samuel and Daniel fight, but Samuel's basically, like, he just connect his fist with Daniel's, then he has his whole hand shattered. So, yeah. With that, Daniel then says, huh. You look a little upset, don't you? He's basically like foaming at the mouth how angry he is. He's trying to dash at Daniel, fighting any way possible. Daniel basically dodged Samuel pretty easily. But Samuel is eventually grabbed by his neck from Daniel, and then Daniel actually bites Samuel on his face, like actually just bites him on his face, and, like right in his eye too. So he drops Samuel and throws him in like just like a stall, and yeah. So, as Samuel's beaten, Daniel ends up leaving. So with this, well, Daniel eventually does like go back, but brings Warren and everyone else he doesn't know Warren. Now him and Warren are on pretty good friendly terms. Remember Daniel like moved to training to hostel, even at gym. His ex-coach was actually able to convince Sally to let him have like a whole training room in there. Well, Daniel basically trains everyone because he needs to, because he thinks that they have great potential. Like Warren, with very minimal training from Daniel, he's still grew enough to actually compare to Manager Kim in power. Like, not like, oh, you're weaker. No, like, you're exactly my equal. So, yeah. So, yeah, basically, everyone now is at least on the level of a crew head, at least, like, Jake Kim level, which is still pretty impressive. So, yeah. But, as they, like, eventually had just went out and broke into workers again, now it's just there revealing he has a black badge because he still fought Gun. So, yeah. As he still fought Gun, he's still got that black badge, and well, the rest he's an executive. So yeah, we made Gun tell him about the black badge. He's gonna hand it over normally, not just for no reason. He wanted to give them the badge, saying, "Here, this may be useful against the 4 major crews." So yeah. So the rest he's an executive. They assume he's like the unnamed one. But now it's known that there's a sixth affiliate, VIP, and they assume that's probably Daniel, or he's the unknown one. So yeah. But he's the newest one. So yeah. With this, Daniel basically invites Warren Che. He basically invites Vasco, Warren, and Jace. Basically everyone he trains, including Eli, Max, and Derek. So yeah. Like, oh yeah, Vasco, Logan, Vasco, Logan, Jace, Jay, Zach, Vin. He brings like a whole posse with him. So yeah. Now this is a basic little place. Going to that floor. And Warren is met by Manager Kim as he tries to like just open one of the doors. As he knows it's like a lot like What and Hilarious. That's their names, but they're running under Amy and Natalie. I guess like their names that they go by, but their real names are Amy and Natalie. So yeah. But as he tries to go in, Manager Kim stops him, only for Warren to fight Manager Kim. As they fight, Manager Kim doesn't know that Logan's Jeet Kune Do. Not Logan, I mean that Warren's Jeet Kune Do is decent, but could be improved. And Logan basically just started learning it properly. So, yeah. So, with this, basically, Daniel just lets these two fight. But initially, Daniel basically just, like, interrupt the fight as they're both about to knock each other out. He lets What and So Hilarious go. Because he goes up to an office, meets Goo, Samuel's office. He meets Goo. Goo just talks to Daniel normally over team. There's no fight. If there was a fight, Goo would be beaten down because he has no sword. So, yeah. Well, I guess we went to Tom Lee because we spent the whole day there at the Workers' Fourth affiliate. Sam was still recovering from the fight that he had because he basically got put in the hospital. Well, when Tom Lee arrived, he wanted to see who beat Gunn and heard the guy that beat Gunn was here. He arrived a bit earlier, but didn't stay as late. So yeah. So as we see Tom Lee fight Daniel and Tom Lee fight. And Tom Lee and Daniel fight, and they're exactly equal in power. They seem to be equal. But Daniel ends up smiling, and this makes Tom Lee question why he's smiling. And that's when Daniel's like, good, you can handle 50%. And this is when Daniel yells, let's try 60. Then he beats Tom Lee. So, yeah. But Tom Lee's like laid flat out on the ground, just unconscious, wondering, who the fuck is that strong in Korea besides, like, probably only him? So, yeah. But next up is Daniel about to bring down the third affiliate. He's basically sick of the workers and how weak they are. And saying that this week they don't deserve to be a crew. They had no good fighters besides Samuel, and he still got his ass beat at like 15% of Daniel's power. Like, hell, Finn could have slammed Samuel down at one time, and that would have been the end of the fight. So, yeah, that's simply how strong they are. Now, then to meet Chairman Hong. And Chairman Hong was like, oh yeah, break into this affiliate. And I was like, okay, sure, I was already planning on doing so. Chairman Hong confused, and I was like, oh yeah, I already brought down the fourth affiliate. Then he brings up that he also beat Gunn, he beat Tom Lee, he beat this many people. Chairman Hong wants to see Daniel versus Sophia. When he fights Sophia, he beats her pretty easily. She questions who he trained with, and then he says, Yujiro Hanma. And that makes so much sense on why he's this strong. He trained with a literal demon. Also, Daniel's in Hanma, so he has no demon back. But with how toned his muscles are from Yujiro, at a certain pose, it's a demon. So yeah. But as I get into the third affiliate, well, Jake Kim is still the bodyguard, but didn't recognize him from what Vasco told him about. And Vasco's also outside, and he recognizes Jake, kind of, but not fully. But Jake recognizes Vasco and can tell he got stronger by just his physique changing. And Jake does bring up to Vasco who he is, and Vasco's like, oh, you here for a rematch or something? I'll still give my 500 won from that woman that went in. That's because of that whole rampage and still beat down everyone around him. It's one where even Johan joined in, and Johan got his ass kicked too. And Jake gave him 500 won and he left. But Jake also said he wanted a rematch, which shocked everyone. Dustin says, yeah, sure, why not? And fights Jake and beat him too. As he walks out, he's met by Zhao Lung, who then says, nope, you're gonna fight me now, because you beat up our whole staff crew. Maybe eventually, realizes that the door isn't opening, so she opened it herself. And then she went out to see Zhao Lung laid out across the floor, unconscious. Which just shocked her. Then sees Vasco leaving covered in blood. So, yeah. You have to see who did it, just saying it was a tugboat salesman. Then returned, wondering what the commotion's about, just look inside, seeing all the guys beaten down. That questions what happened. That's when Vasco's like, oh, they didn't give me 500 won, so I did that. But then one guy wanted to fight me just for fun, so I did, and then the head bodyguard came out and I beat him too. That's when Zhao Lung's like, good job, Vasco. So, yeah. But Dino went in gathering information. and sees everyone laid out, and then sees Vasco outside, and just laughed it off. So yeah, they basically just parties in there till he just gets called in by Vivi. But then when he takes the drug cookies, he is not affected by this at all. Actually, the moment he got drugged in the fourth affiliate, he built up a strong immunity to drugs. All he did is feel a little dizzy, but they'll shake it off. What shocked Vivi is he ate like 100 cookies. Or basically ate most of them, only leaving enough for everyone in the room to take one. We still shook it all off. Eventually he's invited to not invited, but brought to Hotel Vivi. And then while he's there, well, he shows select a human, and he sees him at that one girl, so he saves her. He just smelled her somewhere and just grabbed her. He's about to leave, they question what he's doing. This when he just winks and collecting my prize, the me way. Listen, they all ask Vivi if they can do it that way. He says, no, not appropriate. Not the way you're thinking. And they all thought that Daniel was going to have the S word with her, when in reality he's just going to make her buy him food. So, yeah. Now, when he's about to leave, she's like, oh no, you know too much. So either you die or swear you're not gonna do anything. But Daniel, all he does is basically bitch slap everyone out of the way with no effort, saying that the Takoyaki salesman who beat everyone is his student. So what do you think he could do to them? Immediately, she just says she hopes that he's lying to her. But Xiaolong would barge in, and Xiaolong's at this point not fully healed, but he's still okay. He's he's not doesn't have any broken limbs, but his body is just still tired out. Not tired out, he's just covered in bruises. Nothing's broken. It's just because the Vasco held back on him, so he didn't break anything. But Xiaolong just attacked Daniel at full power, probably just a few bruises. But Daniel basically just grabbed his naginata and snapped it in half with one thumb snapped it in half. Well, he beat Xiaolong down to the point where Xiaolong's body just crippled beyond repair. And then basically it's the gorilla raised guy who's raised by gorillas. Oh, you're so weak. This means I'm probably stronger than Xiaolong. He goes to beat up Daniel. Well, if he didn't bear hug him and snap his spine in half. He basically beats down every single person in his path while holding that girl by her shirt. By the time he's done, he beat down everyone and then just walked out of the building covered in blood. But Xiaolong's bosses still just go on, and then when they talk about information on Daniel, that he goes by the name of Daniel Hanma, and Xiaolong is not punished. Some questions why this oh yeah, if she's a Hanma, you never would have won at all. He is the strongest man on earth trained him to be this strong. What do you think you could have done? And I was like, okay, yeah, fair point. I'm good. So, yeah. By the time he walks out, Jake is about to walk in and ask about the girl. I was like, oh yeah, her bodyguards are all beaten, so just go in there. This is before Xiaolong talk to his boss. But yeah, Jake went in there, questioned her, and she doesn't remember, and he just left her alone. So yeah, that kind of ended the third affiliate arc. But then brought back VV cookies. Now eventually, Eugene, the head of the workers, calls up basically all the crews. But then with Hostile, well, Daniel is basically the head of them now, or he looks like he's the acting head of them. He's not. He's like the acting head, and he arrives with them because he happens to train there 24/7. He got a message in Ollie Wang's name as Ollie still died. So yeah, I didn't go over that because that was something too important. It was pretty much the same thing. The thing is that Eli fought Ollie and almost won until Ollie jumped off the roof. But by the time all the crews were split and divided among who they should join, we get into Big Deal versus Daniel Park and Vasco. They're way too nervous to join again, go against them. And when Samuel was seeing how much Jake was just questioning how much he should join, he was like, "What's so obvious? You join us." But something Jake points out, he lost to Vasco. The guy's his master, and those guys are all the master's students. So he thinks that all of them are possibly on his level, or stronger. This one says, oh yeah, he's holding back against him and Xiaolong, just so he didn't break any of their bones. This one says, yep, and then, do you have enough forces to beat them? And Eugene says, we're not the master, probably the other ones. But suddenly Daniel appeared, right above Eugene. Eugene's, big guy, Mandioc, was able to, block the punch. But when he did, he regretted it, as his whole armor is shattered by Daniel's punch. He immediately then yelled, don't underestimate my students. And then landed behind Eugene, as Vasco basically would jump and just throw Mandioc halfway across the room with one hand. So, yeah. We came to the guy in the white shirt. we basically just see like just Zack one shot him with no effort, and Johan is just there not watching. He's basically blind for this whole arc. But he knows that Zack one shot someone with how everyone was just shocked. When the Big Deal just basically just dropped one person beat Big Deal, and that was Eli Jang. And then when it came to Samuel, basically he's just one shot by Warren. So yeah. But the second affiliate arc would begin, but Daniel is waging war on them. He's able to force Eugene to give him like this amount of black badges, not black badges, but this amount of badges or gold badges. And Daniel officially says that for now he's a new third affiliate. And Eugene kind of nervous and says, "Sure," as he doesn't have anything on Daniel. Even if he did, Max and Derek are still. Daniel with his speed or connection, he could probably make his way all the way over to Hostile in seconds. Because, Daniel ran here and isn't breaking a sweat. And he got there earlier than everyone. And he was the farthest away. So, yeah. At the best, Eugene can threaten Daniel by killing Zoe or his dog. And that will happen. And if that happens, Daniel will wage war on Korea itself. So, yeah. But, third affiliate is now Daniel. So, But no one normally knows this besides Eugene. Well, all he knows is that Daniel's a new, a cohort of Eugene. As he goes through the second affiliate office, Dooley is there, but Dooley, Daniel knows he's there, and Dooley knows that Daniel knows. So, Dooley kind of works there for, just money. That's really just it. He's not angry when he sees Daniel or talks to him. So, yeah. But, basically, eventually everyone is put in the circus. They don't know who they put in the circus. They don't know who, because all of Daniel's guys are wearing masks. But then, I guess we can go through the circus, because Daniel's not in the circus. He's just, watching as, a VIP. Not VIP, but as, a guest in a mask. Basically, the people that are in the circus are Warren, Zach, Sally, and Vin. Small Daniel isn't there in this one. But to replace Small Daniel, I can say it's probably who can replace Small Daniel? To replace Small Daniel, I'm going to say Jay. Jay replaces Small Daniel, because Jay still trained with them. So with Jay replacing Small Daniel, Jay kind of gets all the information from Big Daniel that Big Daniel got, but no one knows their identities at all. But eventually, the first game is basically just rock paper scissors. But when it came to Sally trusted the information that Jay gave her, because she can somehow communicate with Jay, or he handed them small slips of paper. Then they pointed out that Daniel's in the crowd. So yeah. When Jay pointed at Daniel, was like, "What do you mean? What about that VIP?" Warren says, "Oh, he says he's met him before. He's a nice guy." That's when Daniel holds his hand up, saying, "I bet on all of them 5 billion won." And everyone's jaw drops. That's when the neck goes like, "Are they really worth that much?" He's like, "Oh, I should have bet 100 billion, but I don't have that money." So yeah. Now that everyone's kind of nervous, thinking that Daniel's either insane or he knows strong people. But with rock paper scissors, everyone passes because they all got tips from Daniel. So yeah, and they're all friends with Daniel because they train with him. So yeah. But eventually it's the break time, and then there's a small scuffle between Zach's they all get in small scuffles versus these random guys. And then everyone's trying to get Sally, but then Warren basically just did a giant slap motion. Not a slap, a chop motion. My time saying is just by his side again. Everyone looks at the guys, they're all basically just their faces get giant slash marks across them, and they're directly across their eyes mainly, and they just fall to their knees screaming in pain. So yeah. Next up is Game 2, Questism, or Game 3, I believe. Game 3, Questism, and basically everyone has to go get a random quest. Zack had to break an old man's nose. You remember the flashback for Zhao Lung. The guy that tried to kidnap Zhao Lung as a kid is the guy who has to have his nose broke. But Zack does remember these are all criminals and just basically grabs the old man's nose and just snaps it. So, yeah, he didn't really care. He kept a cool head. And then Vin's quest was to protect his glasses for 30 minutes. But then Vin just like basically just lifts his glasses up a bit, saying, "For the first person to come near me will have their hand torn off." And the thing is, the first person who came near him had their fingers torn off, not their hand, but it was still terrifying to watch. So, yeah. Well, Jay had to hit someone in their nuts, and he did that pretty easily. But when he hit the Zero Generation guy in his nuts, well, instead of like him being unfazed, like, "Oh, it's okay," he's on the knee, like screaming in pain at how hard Jay hit him. Like, Jay's built like a tank. So, yeah, everyone's amazed that some random kid made him just scream in pain. So, Jay's rank is boosted up to, like, S rank. Because he beat an A+ rank. So, yeah. Shelly had to bonk some random guy in the head, and Warren had to beat up a random guy, and he did just that. So, yeah. Well, he was going to, but he didn't. The guy gave up. I forgot that. The guy gave up. But then the Generation guy, his job wasn't to beat up Sally, it was to R-word her. And the moment that the guy tried to do that, well, Warren, using his new strength, just grabbed him by the neck and just strangled him in the air. And everyone just sees like Warren pounding the guy's face as hard as he can, about to kill him. But then Ryuhei has to step in until Daniel would appear in front of Ryuhei. And questioning what Daniel was doing until he took off his mask and is looking at Ryuhei saying, "Good old Ryuhei, how long has it been?" He made him back down, calling him back, saying, "Not again, not again, not again, not again, not again, and not again." Next question what he immediately tore off his mask, saying, "This scar on my face is from him." Before Ryuhei can even get back up, he gives him his fist in Ryuhei's face full force, and everyone just hears something loud squirt. And that could either be, well, one, his head is just crushed. Two, he pissed himself and then his pants made a weird noise. Or three, he's dead, 100% dead. Not his head isn't cracked open. His head is just grape. So yeah, it was number two by the way. He pissed himself. So yeah. Now the next fight is Catch a God, and Dumb just jumped out of the ring. So yeah, he put his mask back on, and then no man just basically pulled it out of the ring. So or the arena. When was Catch a God? No one's seen him jumping around. The first person to catch him is actually just Vasco. Who puts not Vasco. I mean, it's Zach who puts his hand out. It's like counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Snatched his leg and threw him into the side. Then the next question, who are these monsters that this guy knows? He then yelled at Daniel saying, "Who are they? Who are these monsters?" And Daniel's like, "Oh, these are my students." And she's just shocked. So yeah. Now eventually all hell did break loose. All the same fights take place. It's Vin versus Yoko. Vin basically slapped Yoko so hard that he killed Yoko. So yeah. And basically everyone versus random people, and this arc ends with Daniel and his students massacring everyone. It's Tom Lee. Oh, just get thrown through the wall and knocked unconscious. Daniel has no need for Ultra Instinct because he doesn't know how to use it and then never heard of it. So the second affiliate arc is where I'm ending this part because all hell broke loose and everyone's defeated. Big deal was even called, but they're waiting outside for all hell to end because they're not getting caught up in it because they don't want to be. So yeah, also Big Deal made sure not to ally themselves with the workers, so there'd be no problem with this at all. So yeah. But eventually, after this whole thing ends, Cena's brought outside because medication wore off, and he just sees Jake and is happy to see him. So yeah, it kind of ended this whole workers arc. If you guys did enjoy this, like and subscribe for more. Adios.